This is the appointed time. This is policy address briefing on commerce and industry. Let's invite the administration in first. The minutes of meeting held on the 16th of December 2014 have been forwarded to members. The Secretariat has not received any proposed amendments from members. Can we confirm the minutes of the last meeting? Thank you. Item 2 of the agenda. Information papers issued since the last meeting are as follows. 3 papers from the administration. The first one is the paper on the 17th Plenary of the Hong Kong-Guangdong Cooperation Joint Conference, CB bracket 1364/1415 bracket 01. Second paper, Administration's paper on the Mainland and Hong Kong closer economic partnership arrangement. Paper number CB bracket 1373/1415 bracket 01. The third paper, it's a logical brief on United Nations Sanctions Somalia Amendment Regulation 2015. File reference CITB CR 102/53/1. Third item, date of next meeting and items for discussion. The date of the next meeting is the 10th of February 2015 at 2:30 p.m. For discussing 2 items, the first is the promotion of inward investment, item 2 on the list of outstanding items for discussion. The next one is development of convention and exhibition industries in Hong Kong, which is item 3 on the list. So, on to item 4 of the agenda, briefings by Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development and Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs on the Chief Executive's 2015 policy address. So may I welcome Mr. Greg So and Mr. Raymond Tam and their team of officials for attending our meeting. So Mr. So, if you may, walk us through the PA, followed by Mr. Tam. Thank you, Chairman. The paper sets out the new initiatives and the progress of ongoing initiatives. I'd like to highlight a few salient initiatives. The first is about economic trade relations with overseas countries. Hong Kong joined the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement on the 8th of December 2014, and we were the first member to join the TFA. The TFA will come into force upon acceptance by 2/3 of the WTO members. On free trade agreements, the negotiation between Hong Kong and the Asian countries commenced negotiation in July 2014 is progressing smoothly. We will endeavor to conclude the negotiation as soon as possible. On IPPA, Hong Kong has signed 17 IPPAs with overseas and had concluded negotiations with Bahrain and Myanmar, and Hong Kong will sign the 2 IPPAs with Bahrain and Myanmar after completion of the necessary internal procedures by the parties concerned. In 2015, Hong Kong will continue to negotiate with Russia on the IPPA, and will also commence negotiation with Chile and the UAE, and the government endeavors to develop new markets in emerging economies, including the Middle East, Asia, Africa, India, and Latin America, to bring a new drive to Hong Kong's export and overall economy. And I'd like to talk about the Economic Development Commission's work. The EDC, led by the Chief Executive, has held 6 meetings and discussed issues like the demand and supply of manpower resources, land use demand and supply, and vocational education. The 4 working groups have progressively submitted specific recommendations on the policy and measures for supporting individual industries. The expert group on fashion industry, established by the Working Group on Manufacturing Industries, Innovation Technology, and Cultural and Creative Industries of the EDC, has made specific recommendations on 3 aspects, namely nurturing of talents and promoting collaboration between the traditional manufacturing industry and the fashion-related design industry, strengthening promotional activities and the related institutional arrangements. These recommendations have been endorsed by the EDC, and we are liaising with the relevant departments and organizations in considering the recommendations. On the Convention and Exhibition Center, the government has accepted the recommendation of the Working Group on Convention and Exhibition Industries and Tourism under the EDC and commissioned the consultancy study in 2014. The government has adopted the consultants' recommendations and has already invited the Hong Kong Trade Development Council to proceed with the planning and considering of the construction of a convention center above the exhibition station of Shatton Central Link in around 2020. As for CIPA, the government has been working with the Ministry of Commerce to realize the objective of basic liberalization of trade in services between Mainland and Hong Kong by the end of the National 12 5-year plan period as proposed by the central authorities. The two sides just signed in late December the agreement between Mainland and Hong Kong on achieving basic liberalization of trade in services in Guangdong so as to achieve early basic liberalization of trade in services in Guangdong. The agreement adopts a hybrid approach of positive and negative lists to set out the liberalization measures in Guangdong of the Mainland applying to Hong Kong. The framework and content of the agreement also sets a model for basic liberalization of trade in services nationwide in 2015. Fourthly, support for Hong Kong enterprises, in particular SMEs. We will continue with the BUD Fund, $1 billion BUD Fund, to provide subsidy for Hong Kong enterprises and non-profit sharing organizations to help them with the brand upgrading and transformation, and also to tap the domestic market. And through ETOs, we will continue to organize Hong Kong Week events in the Mainland, whilst the Hong Kong TDC will continue to expand its network of design gallery shops in various Mainland cities to provide a sales platform for Hong Kong enterprises, especially SMEs. And we will continue to support Hong Kong enterprises through funding schemes administered by the TID, such as the SME Loan Guarantee Scheme, SME Export Marketing Fund, and SME Development Fund, to assist SMEs to secure finance, explore export market opportunities, and enhance their overall competitiveness. On investment promotion, we'll continue to encourage and attract companies from overseas, the Mainland and Taiwan, and key emerging markets to set up and expand their business operations in Hong Kong. We'll continue to promote Hong Kong as an ideal platform for Mainland companies to go global and expand their business internationally, and we'll also enhance our promotion of Hong Kong as a premier startup destination to attract more startup entrepreneurs to set up in Hong Kong. On intellectual property, protecting and utilizing IP is very important for the economic development of Hong Kong. Our work entails three major points. First, since its setting up in 2013, the Working Group on IP Trading led by me has completed deliberations on the specific policies and support measures in all four areas of the strategic framework for promoting Hong Kong as a regional IP trading hub. The Working Group plans to submit a report with recommendations to the government in the first quarter of 2015. Second, to implement the original grant patent system OGP, we're drawing up the requisite amendments to the patents ordinance. We're going to introduce a bill into LegCo in the first half of 2015, subject to the progress of the legislative exercise. We tentatively aim at launching the OGP system in 2016-17 at the earliest. Thirdly, on the Copyright Amendment Bill 2014, it was introduced into LegCo in June last year to update Hong Kong's copyright regime and ensures that it keeps pace with technological and overseas development. The bill is now under the scrutiny of the Bills Committee. We will continue to liaise closely with stakeholders so as to pass the bill as soon as possible. On innovation and technology, we propose to inject $5 billion into the ITF and subsume the R&D cash rebate scheme under the ITF to sustain the government's support for R&T development. We'll consult the panel on the proposal later today, and subject to members' support, we will support it to the LegCo's Finance Committee for approval as soon as possible, and we urge members to support us. On infrastructure, the first three buildings of Science Park Phase 3 were completed in March 2014, and so far they have already secured some 60 tenants for Phase 3. For the remaining two buildings, they will be completed in 2016. the government, in conjunction with the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation, already completed a review on the utilization and long-term development direction of the Science Park industrial estates, and we will implement the recommendations together with the Hong Kong CITB CR, including strengthening the role of the Science Park in developing the IT ecosystem, suitably raising the development density of the park to optimize land use in the park for development of R&D facilities, and proceeding with the formulation of a new IE policy to enhance the economic value chain of the I&T industries in Hong Kong and further revitalize the industrial estates. Well, so much from me, Chairman. I'll be happy to take questions from members. Thank you. Next, I will invite Mr. Raymond Tam to walk us through the paper first before I open the floor to members for questions. Now, Mr. So's speaking notes have already been distributed to members. Thank you, Chairman. Yesterday, I briefed members on policy initiatives under our Bureau. Today, I'd like to talk about matters relating to Mainland and Taiwan. First, Hong Kong and Fujian Province have enjoyed close ties. Hong Kong is the largest source of foreign investment of the Fujian Province and is the most preferred platform for entrepreneurs to bring in foreign investments and go global. 1/6 or 1.2 million of our population came from Fujian, so you can see the close ties between the two places. Last year, both sides agreed on the establishment of a Hong Kong Fujian Cooperation Conference led by the Chief Secretary for Administration and the Vice Governor of Fujian Province responsible for Hong Kong and Macau affairs and commerce. To escalate the level of cooperation, we agreed that the first cooperation conference will be held on the 22nd of January in Fujian this year to discuss our scope of long-term cooperation. In relation to the national 5-year plans, under the principle of one country, two systems, the Hong Kong SAR government has commenced work in relation to the national 13th 5-year plan and consulted relevant sectors and committees. The SAR government will continue to through the established liaison mechanism, maintain close communication with the NDRC and other relevant central authorities to consolidate and enhance competitive advantages of Hong Kong and to contribute to the long-term development of the country. Last November, the Chief Executive and the Governor of Guangdong Province, Mr. Zhu Xiaodan, co-chaired the 17th Plenary of the Hong Kong CJC in Guangzhou, and will further implement the liberalization of trade and services on the basis of early basic achievement of liberalization of trade and services between Hong Kong and Guangdong in 2014, as mentioned by Mr. Greg So just now. And we also agreed to strengthen cooperation in other areas such as financial services, professional services, tourism, cross-boundary infrastructure, environmental protection, cultural exchange, and other key cooperation regions such as Qianhai, Nansha, and Hengqian. And the Chief Secretary for Administration and the Vice Governor of Guangdong Province will be holding the 20th working meeting of the Hong Kong Guangdong CJC this year to finalize the key working plan for the agreement. And also, on the 30th of this month, the Chief Secretary and the Shenzhen, the Governor of Shenzhen Municipal, Mr. Hu Qin, would hold a cooperation conference to explore further cooperation between the two places on the basis of mutual benefits, with the emphasis on Qianhai development, youth development, professional services, and financial services. The Nansha, Hengqian, and Qianhai development are major cooperation projects set out in a dedicated chapter of the National 12 5-year plan, and the SR government is also actively supporting the development of these three areas. And the first meeting of the Inter-Ministries Joint Conference on the Promotion of the Development of the Three Places in Guangdong, as chaired by the NDRC, was held on the 25th of November last year. The CSA also led a delegation to attend the meeting and reflected the views of the sector to the relevant departments to promote the development opportunities of the three areas.
As for our mainland offices, the Wuhan Economic and Trade Office was established in April last year. The Hong Kong SL government has a more comprehensive network in the mainland. To further expand the network of the mainland offices, we recently set up a liaison unit in Liaoning province in December 2014 to underpin the Beijing office to facilitate Hong Kong people and enterprises to capitalize on the opportunities brought about by the rapid development of the northeast region. We plan to set up a liaison unit in Shandong province and the Shanghai ETO in the first half of this year. We will also make preparation to set up a liaison unit in the central region upon the full-fledged operation of the Wuhan ETO. As for Taiwan, Hong Kong and Taiwan have been promoting exchanges and cooperation on various public policy areas through the ECCPC and the Taiwan-Hong Kong Economic and Cultural Cooperation Council, respectively. First of all, in Hong Kong and Taiwan, we separately set up ECCPC THEC platform, that is Hong Kong Taiwan Economic and Cultural Cooperation and Promotion Council and Taiwan Hong Kong Economic and Cultural Cooperation Council. And also for our Hong Kong Economic Trade and Cultural Office in Taiwan, we have been working through it a lot. That different events have been held so that communication of the two places can be enhanced. On the 12th of December last year, the ECCPC and THEC platform held a meeting in Taiwan. We agreed that we will cooperate in three areas: meteorological services, landslide emergency services, and flood emergency services. Looking forward, we hope that through the platform and the Hong Kong ETCO, our communications can be enhanced. For your speaking note, can it be given to us? Thank you. Yes. Okay, now the two secretaries have already made their presentations. I would now ask members to ask questions. I hope that you will ask questions pertaining to commerce, industry, trading, in IT, protection of IP, and also promoting foreign investment. We will have a first round of questions, 4 minutes, and then I'll read out the names: Wong Kwok Hing, Lam Kin Fong, Andrew Lang, Charles Mok, Vice Chairman Vincent Fang, Lo Wai Kwok, Sin Chung Kai, and Ma Fong Kwok. First, Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, well, the Secretary, when he made his speech, he talked about the patent grant, and also he has a very clear timetable for the relevant legislation. I welcome that because I first put this forward and the Secretary has been following up on it, and now we are seeing a very clear timetable. I believe the inventors of Hong Kong must be very happy to hear this news. And I would like to ask a question that is about the last part of the Secretary's speech. In the policy address, it is said that science parks should be optimized and the remaining sites should be used in a better manner. We hope that R&D outcomes can be commercialized. I have visited the science park. I really appreciate their work. However, I have a feeling that there is insufficient land there. So for the Secretary's speech and also the policy address, I have heard them, and now that you will be cooperating with the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation to make good use of the remaining land, but I don't see you have much remaining land. At the northern tip, there is actually a very good site. However, now it's turned into residential purpose. I really regret that. Now, if the government is not far-sighted enough to further provide land for the development of the science park, then you will not be moving forward fast enough. And how about industrial estate, you just want to make good use of the existing sites, but I don't think that's enough. So I hope to hear the Secretary's answer. Mr. Gregory So, I would like to thank Mr. Wong for his support of our original grant patent system. We will definitely implement it as fast as possible. And I would like to ask Ms. Janet Wong to answer this question. Now for Science Park Phase 3, now it's under construction, and are already tenants that have moved in. Until 2016, the whole project will be completed. So I think we can meet the short-term demand. However, for the long run, we already have some plans in mind. Well, when we built the third phase of the science park, we knew that Hong Kong's land was very precious. So design-wise, we haven't changed the DFA, but we've changed the design a bit so that the layout would allow us to have some more land for development in the future. And also for Science Park Phases 1 and 2, if we look at them in the long run, actually there are still some spaces there, and new GFA can be created. So all these are on the drawing board. As for the industrial estate, many people say that now inside the industrial estate, most of the buildings are 2 to 3 stories high. In the past, it was reasonable because the policies was developed in the 70s. But now when we look at these buildings, they are too short. So how can we release the land use potential there? We will do this, and in the future we will come back to consult members. Well, I support that no matter whether it's the DID or the Innovation Commission, I hope that you can be bolder. You can try your best to get more sites so that the science R&D professionals can give play to the potential, because now you have your hands bound. You do not have enough land. Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Well, with regard to the CE's policy address this year, on the whole, we support it. We hope that the new proposals can be implemented as soon as possible. Later on, we will be making recommendations for improvements to the government. Now, first of all, about innovation and technology, we are happy to see that the government will be injecting $5 billion into the Innovation and Technology Fund. And also for the cash rebate scheme, it will be subsumed under the ITF. However, previously we had another suggestion. That is, if we do not use cash rebates, can we move to tax rebate? And in many countries they do this. I hope that the government can reconsider it. As for enhancing Hong Kong's external liaison, I support that. I hope the government can do this faster and with more effort. Well, when we look at overseas countries and the mainland, of course, they should be looked at separately. And I'm happy that Mr. Raymond Tam is here today. I hope that he can tell us more about the opening of Hong Kong offices on the mainland. In the past few years, Hong Kong has done a lot in terms of promotion, and things happened in Hong Kong. I think the ETOs should also do something in this area. Things happened in the past few months in Hong Kong. However, reports on such events overseas were not completely impartial. So I think that the ETOs of Hong Kong should explain more to the foreigners? And also in Southeast Asia, can we add more ETOs? If we cannot set up a big office, we should at least set up a Hong Kong desk. Now, if you go to more backward places, if the people there want to look up information concerning Hong Kong, they cannot find anywhere that they can do so. And on the mainland, can you also set up more offices so that we can attract more investors? And also for our businessmen working on the mainland, if they encounter problems, they can also have somewhere to go to. Okay, which secretary is going to answer this question? Mr. Grexel first. I will answer some of the questions, and then Mr. Raymond Tam will answer the others. I would like to thank Mr. Lam. If you have new suggestions, we would definitely welcome them. We will actively look into them. And also for our ETOs. In the past, we have been explaining to officials on the mainland as to what happened in Hong Kong, and there are also other things that we would do. For example, in Vietnam a few months ago, there were some order problems, so we offered help to our businessmen there. We also explained our policies to them. So our ETOs will try their best to do this kind of job. And also in the policy address, you will see that we will definitely stepping up our work, and our network of ETOs will spread. Well, Mr. Tam, as for our mainland ETOs, they mainly do three kind of things. First of all, to promote Hong Kong, and it is a bridge for our businessmen to go to the mainland, and also for Hong Kong people who are working, studying, or retiring on the mainland. We hope that they can keep a contact with us, and also if they encounter any problems, accidents, etc., they can also talk to our ETO, and our ETO will try our best to help as early as possible. And also we will be liaising with different provinces and cities. We are now having closer and closer cooperation. So for our whole the ETO networks, in the past years, now we have set up ETOs in the north, in the south, in the east, and in the west. And we have just opened a new ETO at Wuhan, and we also will be setting up a Shanghai ETO liaison unit in Shandong province. And Fuzhou and other cities, we have also set up this kind of units. The network is already pretty good now. If we have enough resources, of course, we will try to expand our network. But of course, we'll also have to look at the needs of Hong Kong. Okay, next, Mr. Andrew Lau. In paragraph 23 of the policy address, we've talked about the trading zone in Guangdong province. Actually, Guangdong is one of our close partners. And you have told us that you are setting up this and that. So, but I want to be more forward-looking. What exactly will be done within this year? Will you be taking Hong Kong businessmen and professionals to the mainland so that they can talk to their mainland counterparts concerning possible cooperation? Of course, for Qianhai, we have been talking about that a lot, but how about Nansha and Hengqin? And second, with regard to ASEAN, we are now talking about having an agreement. Other than ASEAN, China has also signed free trade agreements with Korea and other places. So other than ASEAN, will Hong Kong be also be signing agreements with other places? Who's going to answer this question, Mr. Tam? Thank you, Chairman. With regard to Guangdong, Nansha, Qianhai, and Hengqin, will be the major areas where we'll be cooperating. And also for the free trade zone, the NPC, the State Council has already been looking at it. So for these 3 places, they all have their advantages and their positionings are different. For Qianhai, because in the past few years, it has been very active. It has came to Hong Kong a number of times to promote for promotion. So I think Hong Kong businessmen are more familiar with it. However, for Nansha, I think we can really look deeper into its potential. The SAR government will be happy to take chambers, legislators, as well as businessmen and professionals to these places for site visits. Now, if you go to the place and listen to the development plans of the officials there, you will have a better understanding of the places. We will try to find the appropriate opportunity.
About Asian countries, Mr. So, well, about a negotiation with Asian countries, we are making an effort because there are over 10 countries in Asian countries, and it takes time to arrange for negotiations, and we will particularly explore the feasibility of free trade agreements with key emerging markets. A question for Mr. So. I'm director of the Trade Development Council. Now, the TDC's consultants' recommendations have been adopted by the government, and the TDC will be tasked to consider building the exhibition venue above the exhibition station. So what assistance will the government provide? So the TDC will be tasked to plan for the new convention and exhibition venue. So we have arranged with the Hong Kong TDC, and they are going to use their resources in planning for this venue. It will take quite some time because it takes, the exhibition station of Sha Tin Central Link won't be completed until 2020. So meanwhile, we will make good use of the time and plan ahead together with the Hong Kong TDC. Thank you. Next, Mr. Charles Mok. Thank you, Chairman. I'll come to talk about the $5 billion injection into ITF. Yes, that's another agenda item. So coming back to this item, a few days ago at the ITB panel, we raised the same point. As we support the industrial development apart from industrial policies, it may not be sufficient simply to say that we support R&D, because the major problem with R&D is commercialization of R&D results. So we should step up our work on various fronts. For example, to boost demand, and that support should be given to R&D enterprises for users to use R&D results. One is vide. This is a similar program giving direct support to users. The other is a subsidy for the retail industry. And I raised the point last time, Secretary. I think you understand our point as well. We hope that the scheme can be broadened in terms of scope as soon as possible. The other point is about concessionary measures. In future, there will be an ESS, and enterprises would actually prefer tax breaks instead of, say, $10 million funding support. But perhaps we need to ask Mr. KK Chan, the Secretary, to come and explain their policies to us. I think we really need to consider the funding arrangement. The other point is about review on the on Science Park and industrial estates. I hope that you can discuss the details with us as soon as possible. There are some constraints regarding the use of IEs at the moment. It is really feasible to increase density and optimize land use, and there can be more facilities. There are facilities in Science Park, but there aren't even catering facilities in industrial estates. We need to make a change because people there are no longer factory operators only. So Phase 4 of the Science Park has been auctioned away for residential development. So if we talk about land for use in the Science Park, many members now express dismay, but back then not many members objected to the proposal. I was one of the members who went to Town Planning Board to object, and now the message is negative. Even for sites reserved long ago, it was eventually auctioned off for residential development, not for PRH development, but for luxury flats. So where do we find land? Even for sites reserved in your planning for Hong Shui Kiu, NENT, will there be land reserved? For this purpose, can you give us a definite answer? Because last time at the ITB panel we talked about sites reserved for data centers, and time is necessary. We need optic fiber cables and power supply, so you need to plan ahead so as to reassure investors and entrepreneurs and let them know what they should do. Brief reply, Mr. So. I agree very much that IT application is very important. Therefore, in relation to the BUD fund or the support for retail industry and also other facilitation measures, we have these to facilitate the use of I&T. And also we promote IP trading and other facilities to promote the use of ICT and innovation technology by our sectors. Next, Mr. Vincent Fang, Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, about the Chief Executive's policy address, in principle, I support it. Although the title is about economic development, but I don't see much in promoting economic development. About the free trade agreements with Asian countries, injection of $5 billion in ITF, and a $1 billion BUD fund. In fact, all these had been discussed at the CI panel way before the announcement of the policy address. We don't see any new initiatives as far as developing the economy is concerned. I'd like to talk about 3 points. In para 40, as mentioned by some members just now, I originally thought that the Chief Executive would do something to promote convention and exhibition sector, because now the bookings of the existing center is very full, and now I see that this is just a convention center proposed. Does it mean that there won't be any new exhibition venue? We talked about phase 2, phase 3 of the CAC in Wan Chai. So my question for the Secretary is this: does it mean that a new convention center won't be built until around 2020 and there won't be another exhibition center? And secondly, you talk about a lot of SMEs, a lot of schemes to help SMEs, such as SME loan guarantee scheme, so on and so forth. Now, after the Occupy movement lasting for 79 days, SMEs suffered huge losses, as well as larger enterprises. Will there be any measures to help them because they're facing problems, in particular in terms of cash flow? You have SME financing schemes, but micro enterprises are not eligible under these schemes. Now, lastly, I share Mr. Charles Mok's point On the one hand, we're going to inject $5 billion in the ITF for the development of I&T, and we should support it. Our commitment to I&T is in fact very low. Originally, 2 sites have been reserved for I&T development, but now the land has been auctioned off, and there is no more land for Phase 4 of Science Park. So is this the future for I&T in Hong Kong? Richard Lee attaches much importance to I&T in Hong Kong, but I&T, but not in Hong Kong, but rather in Israel. So where can we find land to develop I&T? Can you respond to the 3 points? Apart from the new convention center above the exhibition station, we will also consider a new convention center if we can find appropriate land with appropriate support, such as catering, accommodation facilities, and we'll explore the feasibility of having another convention center. And about the SME support schemes, I won't repeat them. I think we're all familiar with them. These schemes also apply to micro enterprises. So micro enterprises are also eligible under these schemes. As for the $5 billion injection in the ITF, well, Chairman, my time is up. I don't know whether I have time to defer to Ms. Wong. Well, wait for your next question. What about Science Park, Secretary? Yes, Commissioner. Well, I already answered Mr. Charles Mok on the point about Science Park, but on industrial estates, well, in fact, we have 3 industrial estates covering altogether 200 hectares of land with 70-odd hectares each. So land is sufficient, but we are looking into some vacant sites within the industrial estates. And there are other government land that some government departments may eventually give up, and not many, and we still have plot ratios which hasn't been used up, and we are also considering giving them more incentives to revitalize industrial estates as a whole, because some plots of land have been sold off and they're underutilized. And in due course, we're going to submit another paper to consult members. And by then, members would understand that we have floated a lot of ideas. Next, Dr. Loy Kwok. Chairman, members here today asked about the land use in Science Park, and Secretary and Commissioner may understand that I'm one of the members who strongly objected to using the land in Science Park for low to medium rise residential development. And it was in 2013 when 8 hectares of land in Pak Shek Kok was reserved for IT development, and yet a year later, in October 2014, it was auctioned off for low and to medium rise developments, and our sector strongly opposes it. And we have a number of development projects, such as the NENT development project, and time and again we heard from Secretary Mr. Paul Chan that we need to provide housing for people, but we have other facilities there, such as sites for I&T development, so that these NDAs in Hong Kong will carry high-value economic activities and bring job opportunities to people. However, so far I haven't seen any concrete proposal. Can you take this opportunity and let us know more? Mr. So, are you working with Mr. Paul Chan so as to ensure that new elements will be included in the NDAs? Liaison between the two bureaus, Secretary. Maybe I'll defer to Commissioner Ms. Wong to take this question. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we have been keeping in touch with the Development Bureau on the reservation of sites, say for the Loop area and Kutong in Northeast NT. We have reserved sites for high technology and industrial use. This is a large-scale project, however. We need to follow the overall development plan. But indeed, we have reserved the sites.
Chairman, sites have been reserved. However, there is no development plan at the moment. And the government is not forward-looking as to what kind of high-value added industries will be developed there, right? Well, we have thought about R&D, testing, certification, etc. The way we wrote it made it very flexible because technology changes all the time, and we have reserved a place for innovation and technology, and the definition is flexible enough so we can look at the latest technology trend. In Hong Kong, I think we haven't identified the most important IT industry. In paragraph 43 of the policy address, it mentioned R&D. Hong Kong's gross domestic expenditure on R&D increased from 7.1 billion in 2001 to 15.6 billion in 2013, an average annual growth of 7%. But this only accounts for 1% of our GDP. When we compare with our competitors, we really lag far behind. We have to catch up. Next, Mr. Sin Chung Kai. I noticed that in paragraph 22 of the policy address, you say the Hong Kong SAR government has submitted its proposals for the national 13th five-year plan to the central government. However, in Mr. Tam's speech, page 2, paragraph 4, it seems it's a bit different. You say that under the principle of One Country, Two Systems, the SARG has started the relevant work concerning the 13th five-year plan and it's already consulted the relevant industries and committees. But you haven't said that proposals have been submitted. So have you submitted the proposals? If you have submitted the proposals, why don't you tell us what the proposals are? Well, for the 12th five-year plan, I think you did come to brief us, but I'm now talking about the 13th five-year plan. So I'm not too sure. What's the existing situation? Which one is going to answer this question? That is about the 13th five-year plan and the submission of proposals to the central government. Mr. Tam? Well, for the 13th five-year plan, actually at this council, we have already made some briefings. According to our information, on the 15th of April last year, we briefed this panel and we submitted a paper to this panel informing members as to how the Hong Kong SARG is going to work in accordance with the 13th five-year plan. But this is still in progress. According to our timetable, we hope that in the early parts of this year, we can officially submit the SARG's proposals to the National National Development and Reform Commission. And in the second quarter of this year, I will be going to Beijing to talk to the NDRC. This is number one. As for the specific content, in Hong Kong, we have consulted the relevant chambers of commerce as well as advisory committees. We have also heard their views. So for the relevant content, you can see it under the chapter of the 12 five-year plan. It's about a logistics center, financial center, etc. So we are building on this foundation. Of course, there may be one or two new things. For example, when it comes to the development of arbitration service, etc., I think we can do more. And also, the Hong Kong professionals in this regard can enjoy more opportunities. Now we are still deliberating. We would welcome members' views. So what about paragraph 22? You say that the SARG government has submitted its proposal. So have you submitted or not? According to what you said just now, it seems that you haven't submitted the proposals yet. I remember you did tell us about the 12 five-year plan, but how about the 13 five-year plan? Have you submitted the proposals? If you have, what are the proposals? Because under paragraph 22, you say that the government has already submitted its proposals. Chairman, if you look at our paper submitted to this panel in April last year, you will see that it's about the cooperation between Guangdong and Hong Kong, and also it's about the 13 five-year plan and the Hong Kong government's preparation work. In the paper, we said that the SARG at that time was looking at 9 issues. So what have we submitted? Now, according to the NDRC timetable, in the latter half of last year and up to the first quarter of this year internally, they would be looking at the 13 five-year plan, and they would be looking at different strategies submitted by different provinces and municipalities. So this is the rough framework. We have looked at the 9 issues, and with regard to these 9 issues, how can Hong Kong make contributions, etc. We have thought about all this, and we have submitted our rough thinking to the NDRC. And the NDRC will be looking at this, and it will be looking at things in greater details. So if the NDRC needs more information from us, or we come up with something that can make contribution to the mainland, we will work in accordance with the timetable of the NDRC and submit our views gradually. What do you mean? So you have submitted certain proposals to the Central People's Government. Can you tell us what those proposals are? Can you give us a paper on the proposals submitted? Yes, last year we submitted some proposals to the Legislative Council, and they were put under 6 categories, and some people said that there should be a further breakdown. That's 9 categories. So for these 9 categories, we can give member information for reference as to the information that or the proposals we submitted to the NDRC, because it's for their internal use. So without their consent, we cannot give that to members. We can talk about the 9 issues, but not the exact proposals. Last year, what do you mean? So it's like they are giving you old information. Mr. Ma Feng Kwok, in the paper, paragraph 8 and 9, is said that the CITB will be expanded so that the mainland markets can be enhanced. I would like to mention an industry which really hopes the government will help it. That is the publishing industry. It accounts for a very important part of Hong Kong's economy, is also very influential. So can we make use of CITB so that when Hong Kong companies publish books on the mainland, international book numbers can be given to Hong Kong books? We have talked about this for a long time, but there has been no response. So what kind of obstacles are there? So that we are not making any progress. Okay, about publications. At the CITB panel, we also talked about this. Create Hong Kong's director also explained about this. We will try our best to fight for Hong Kong. And just now I mentioned the negative and positive lists concerning each industry. So maybe I can ask Mr. Kenneth Mack, the Director General of Trade and Industry, to answer you. With regard to the publishing industry, we understand that they have certain aspirations, and these have already been reflected to the Central People's Government. However, we have been fighting for this for some time. However, only small some things can be done, but not major things. Last month, a new version of CITB was signed, and is about the liberalization of service trade between Hong Kong and Guangdong, and a negative list as well as a positive list were included. So what are the difficulties? I'm going to talk about that. There are two areas of surface trades which do not use negative and positive lists. One is cultural industry, the other is telecommunication. We use positive lists for these two areas because for these two industries, the mainland government attaches great importance to them. It will take more time for these industries to be liberalized, and publishing is under cultural industries, so we still need time. But I can assure Mr. Ma that each time we will reflect the industry's views to the central authorities. I hope you'll try your best. Can you also clarify at the CITB panel yesterday? Well, in the policy address, it is suggested that sites should be reserved for the building of cinemas, and this leads to a lot of misunderstanding, and even some legislators have reservation on this because they think that the government is going to reserve sites for the construction of cinemas. However, the government says it's not. It just says that in the land lease there will be a condition that is asking the developers to reserve space for the development of cinemas. I think a lot of people are not clear about this, and Six Media asked me to clarify this point. It seems that they have also misunderstood this. I would like to thank Mr. Ma for his question. As for cinemas, it is only one of the policies to help the film industry. It's not the only initiative. We have a series of initiatives to help the Hong Kong film industry. Yesterday at the CITB panel, we talked about films. So at the CI panel, I don't think this should be included, but I still allow you to ask the questions because I know the media has been chasing after you. So if you want to know the details, maybe you should raise more questions at the CITBP. Okay, second round, 4 minutes. Mr. Charles Mock. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, members asked about the development of convention centers. I would like to make my points. Now, for exhibition areas, I'm not sure we do not have enough. However, I think the shortage of convention space is even more serious. Well, many large-scale conferences are not coming to Hong Kong. They have held conferences for 3 or 4 times in Singapore. However, they still haven't come to Hong Kong because they cannot book a slot at the CEC. And even the CEC doesn't have enough space for them. So we really cannot compete with Singapore. And for international conferences, they would not book 3 or 4 years beforehand. That is due to the constitutional restraints. So we are disadvantaged. If they want to come to Hong Kong, we have no space. So shall we refer them to Macau? I support that a real convention center be built as soon as possible. That is, there should be several big plenary rooms with numerous small rooms. This is very important for the service industry, and also exhibitions are very important for the manufacturing industry. However, now you can so hold exhibitions, but for international conferences, Hong Kong really cannot hold many of them because of the lack of space. So for the exhibition station, it will be completed around 2020. Just around, the MTRCL has been doing things quite slowly. So after the completion of the exhibition center, a new convention center may be built above the station. So it will take another 8 or 10 years. I don't know what can be done so that this can be sped up. And I would like to make another point. You can answer me in one go. This is my opinion. It's very difficult to get an answer from you anyway. Yesterday, the secretary mentioned that you want to encourage startups to come to Hong Kong. Mr. So mentioned the ecology. You say that the ecology has developed quite well. However, there is a flaw, that is about capital. As I said previously, if you want R&D to be developed in Hong Kong, how can you encourage angel funds and private equities to come to Hong Kong so that they can take part in the seeding period of these startups? I'm not just talking about cyberports. Now cyberports has some microfunds. It gives you $100,000 so that you can try it out. They are not asking you to repay it. However, the companies want you to make a capital investment in the very beginning, then they can have a valuation. Otherwise, after spending the $100,000, even though it's $200,000, then they have to start afresh. They have no valuation. They cannot find a first investor. I think the government can really play a big role in this.
Yes, Mr. So, I'll defer to Mr. Yong to take the question. Thank you for your comment and your question. The new convention center is crucial to providing more convention and exhibition facilities. However, we must wait for completion of the Shanghai Central Link to be completed, so it will be some time before we can build that. Before commencing with the construction of a new convention center, the Hong Kong Tourism Board and the exhibition venue operators will work together in shuffling the booking schedule of exhibitions to maximize the use of the venue. And through a tripartite cooperation mechanism, we have been able to refer some prospective exhibition organizers to hold the exhibitions in venues other than the two exhibition centers in Hong Kong. So, Mr. Felix Chung, I'd like to ask about the Economic Development Commission in the Secretary's speaking notes. I'm happy to hear this. And the supporting measure for the sustainable development of the fashion industry can finally be implemented with the help of the EDC and endorsement of the CITB. So, Secretary, when are you going to implement the specific recommendations? And also, on support for SMEs, I understand that for the SME loan guarantee scheme and the SME development fund, these are the major supporting measures. And I was told by banks that they do not participate in the SME loan guarantee scheme because they prefer directly lending money to SMEs instead of going through the scheme. And the administrative procedures and time needed for reimbursement under the scheme is too cumbersome. So is there any way to relax the requirements so that you can really implement the SME loan guarantee scheme so that needy SMEs can rely on the scheme? So thank you, Mr. Chung, for your question, and thank you, Mr. Chung, for your support all along for the fashion industry, and I thank you for the valuable views, and your comments have been reflected in the expert group on fashion industry's recommendations on nurturing of talents and promoting collaboration between traditional manufacturing industry and fashion-related design industry, and strengthening promotional activities and the related institutional arrangements. There are 10 different recommendations made by the expert group covering these 3 aspects, as I mentioned, and we have a different time frame for implementation of these 10 recommendations. Based on the time needed for implementation and the work required, we're going to roll out these recommendations one by one. On the SME supporting measures, now the application and the vetting processes have been quite smooth under the SME financing guarantee scheme, and by and large SMEs have been able to secure financing support from the scheme. Can I follow up on the question, Mr. Chung? Yes. On the loan guarantee scheme, the fact is that I have been told by not just 1 or 2 banks, but many banks, that they are facing huge obstacles under the SME financing guarantee scheme administered by the Hong Kong Mortgage Corp. And as a result, the number of applications received is small. There are bottlenecks in the process, and banks are not willing to take part in the scheme. Well, for members' reference, let me quote some figures. As of the end of December 2014, we received altogether 10,776 applications, and 9,600 applications have been approved. Some applications have been withdrawn, and we only rejected 69 applications, accounting for 0.7%. So Mr. Chung talks about resistance from the Hong Kong Mortgage Corp, but in fact that's not the case. Only 69 cases, or 0.7% of the total applications, were rejected. The majority of applications had in fact been approved. As for the banks' practices, they have commercial decisions to make, which we have to respect. Thank you. Mr. Zhou, it seems the information you have is quite different from what the administration has. Can you get more understanding on the specific figures and submit them to the administration? Because this is very important when the information that you have is so different from the administration's. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, following up on my previous question, can you say in short that you have submitted some initial recommendations? Can you also give us your initial recommendations submitted so that we know what you have submitted to Beijing and what instructions have been given by Beijing? Of course, we don't know that, but can you give us that? Mr. Zhang, Permanent Secretary, Ms. Zhang. Well, as I said just now, we submitted the 10 topics. For example, Hong Kong as the offshore renminbi center and the international landing center. Yes, we can consolidate these topics for members' reference. Any follow-up, Mr. Sin? No. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. For the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, it has been implemented on a pilot basis for a year, and we have seen that we have seen its effectiveness and its successful implementation of facilitation measures for the commerce and industrial sectors, and therefore the central authorities is going to implement another 3 free trade zones in Guangdong, Fujian, and Tianjin. A year or so after the free trade zone came into effect, for foreign investors registered there, over 40% of them are actually Hong Kong enterprises. It shows how flexible Hong Kong people is. We will definitely grasp any business opportunity presented to us, which is good. And in para 23 of the policy address, it talks about the pilot free trade zone in Guangdong. Now, nothing has been mentioned about the remaining 2 free trade zones in Tianjin and Fujian. We have 2 bureau secretaries here. Can you tell us something about the possible business opportunities brought about by the pilot free trade zones and how Hong Kong people can be assisted to grasp the opportunities? Mr. Raymond Tam, for Tianjin and Fujian, it seems that the operation has not commenced. Now, the State Council gave its approval in principle at the end of last year, and Chief Secretary and I, at the end of this week, will go to Fujian to attend the cooperation meeting as mentioned just now. And we will also be briefed on the latest ideas relating to Fujian part of free trade zone and their plan. And we are going to gauge Hong Kong's opportunities arising from this new measure as well. As for Tianjin FTZ, we don't have much information at hand, but I recall that the Tianjin ETO staff will liaise with their counterparts to understand more about their plan. We don't have much information about Tianjin part of free trade zone at hand, but for Fujian and FTZ, we're going to know more by the end of this week. Any follow-up? Not much. I hope the administration will, through the liaison meetings, get specific information to formulate specific plan to help our business sector. Next, Mr. Felix Chung. Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for Mr. Tam. Now, in policy address, the Chief Executive, to our impression, places much emphasis on mainland's development and that there are ample opportunities on the mainland, and that different sectors of the Hong Kong community shall be encouraged to grasp these opportunities in the mainland. Well, Secretary, in your speaking notes, you talk about cooperation with Guangdong province, and towards the end of this month, the Chief Secretary will be discussing a number of items with the Governor of Guangdong province, such as development of Qianhai, Nansha, etc. Now, there seems to be a lot of items, but nothing is concrete. For example, on youth development, on Qianhai development in particular, on cooperation on youth development, what exactly is it about? I think it's a bit vague, although you've set out a number of items. Youth cooperation, should it be regarded as under the purview of Education Bureau or Economic Development? Secretary. Now, I'll say a few words and I'll invite the PS to supplement. We're going to hold meetings, of course, As we're close to Shenzhen, traveling between the two places is convenient. I would like to encourage more young people to grasp the opportunities for exchange, for internship, for studies, etc. And I'll defer to the DS. Now, our cooperation entails cooperation with Guangdong province as well as Shenzhen, and we would like to play the role of coordinator. And for example, for Guangdong Hong Kong cooperation, the chief executive will take the lead, and for Shenzhen Hong Kong cooperation, chief secretary will take the lead. We hope that by doing so, we can have a high-level cooperation. As for youth cooperation or collaboration under Shenzhen Hong Kong cooperation, we understand that for the Qianhai Management Authority, they have already established a mechanism for more internship opportunities for our youths, and young people in Hong Kong will be encouraged to start their businesses in the creative industries there. We are going to work with the Qianhai Management Authority. And at the meeting between the CS and the Shenzhen Municipal Governor, which is a platform, the work will be coordinated.
Chairman, just now I heard that there will be rental incentive or policies so that young people can try to start up their business there. However, I have a question. Now, the Shenzhen government has this kind of incentive policies for Hong Kong people. How come the SARG is not doing this for Hong Kong people? Okay, Mr. Greg So, why can't Hong Kong government do this? Well, for innovation, actually yesterday at the meeting I already gave a lot of explanations. As for startups, we are providing them support such as financing and markets broadening. Mr. Charles Mock, I would also like to follow up. For the Qianhai development, they have certain plans that's aiming at Hong Kong young people, hope that the youth of Hong Kong can go there and start a business. So for this kind of startups, are they aiming at Hong Kong's market, or are they aiming at the mainland market or Qianhai market? So where is the market? And how about the Hong Kong government? What role will it play? For example, if there is a group of young people, they want to start their own business, and they see there is this Qianhai opportunity. However, at the same time, there is a science park and cyber port. And they would ask you, where do you think I should go? Who should be going to Qianhai and who should be going to Cyberport, etc. I think Mr. Mok should be very clear about this. If you talk about startups, now you have to look at their business. Are they developing in ICT, innovative technology, or design? There are different incubation programs for different areas. For example, at the Design Center, there are some incubation programs. And at Science Park, Cyberport, they also have their own different incubation programs. So if they want to start their own business, well, there are different programs to help them. For example, SME loan guarantee scheme, marketing scheme, etc. So we have different schemes for them. So for enterprises, if they need trainings, if they need administrative support, financing, marketing, etc., they can also come to us. And for loan guarantee, we can also provide support. So we will have to look at the markets and mode of operation of different companies, and there are different funds and schemes to help them. I'm still not too clear. Just now I asked, well, for the Hong Kong government, what role will it play in the Shanghai development? Will they be recommending Hong Kong companies to go to Shanghai? So for Hong Kong itself, it has Science Park and Cyberports, and they are under you, Secretary. Of course, you can refer the young people to an appropriate program. However, if you want to refer them to Shanghai, what is that? Is that a referral? What's the relationship? Well, if we can help our business to develop on the mainland, of course, we will explore the opportunities. Just now, we talked about a so-called Dream Work workshop is operated by the Hong Kong Federation of Youth, not the Hong Kong government. For the Shanghai development, it is cooperating with some IT platforms in Hong Kong. Is liaising with the Science Park and the Cyberport. They hope that they can have collaborations. And so what's the market that Shanghai is targeting? As far as I understand, they do not have any restrictions. They are just providing a platform for the young people. I think Ms. Cheung would also like to answer. For this project, it's called Shenzhen Hong Kong Creative Workshop for young people. So it's targeting young people of Hong Kong and Shenzhen. For the Shanghai Authority, they are heading this project. So they have been promoting this project in Hong Kong. They hope that they can attract Hong Kong young people so that they can join this workshop. They are also cooperating with NGOs in Hong Kong for promotion. I see that members are very interested in this project. So when the Shanghai Authority is ready, we will ask them for more information, and then we will disseminate those information. I think it's about time that we wrap up the discussion of this item. If there are no other questions, let's move on to the next agenda item. That is injection into the Innovation and Technology Fund, ITF. And the public officers for this item are Ms. Janet Wong, Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Mr. Johan Wong, Deputy Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Mr. Frank Chung, Assistant Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, and Professor Yuan Ching, Science Advisor of the Innovation and Technology Commission. Welcome, government officials. Welcome. Injection into the Innovation and Technology Fund. Commissioner, would you take us through the paper, please? And then we'll see what questions members have. Thank you, Chairman. For this paper, it seeks members' support to inject $5 billion into the Innovation and Technology Fund. First of all, I would like to thank the chairman for allowing us to add this item at such a late stage. As for the ITF, is a very important tool for promoting R&D. It has been established for 15 years. In November last year, we submitted our comprehensive review reports to members, and I would like to thank members for their support. In December, we provided another paper on ESS, and this can be launched in March. As for the cash rebate scheme, it is another scheme which has $200 million under it. And now we have approved about $170 million. So for the long run, we think that it should be subsumed under the ITF. That would be more convenient. As for the ITF, the balance now is about $200 million. We can still approve about $200 million. So we are happy that in the policy address this year, it is suggested that $5 billion will be injected into the ITF. If members support this, we will later seek approval at the Finance Committee. The fund was established in 1991 and now is already into its 15th year. I think it has been playing quite an important role in the industry. And I'm sure members would know about that. So in the past 15 years, almost most of the fund has been used. So now that's why the government is suggesting to inject $5 million into the fund. Members, do you have any questions for this? First, Mr. Charles Mock. Chairman, I welcome the injection because the money has almost been used up, and the fund helps a lot in R&D. Of course, there is still a lot of room for improvement. However, a number of R&D centers have been set up, and many SMEs, when they started up, they also make use of this fund. Last time you also told us about the ESS. Yes, we still have a lot of questions. That is how improvements can be made and how can we be assured that you will achieve your goals, etc. We want to know more. But on the whole, I support this. I have several questions. First of all, in 1999, $5 billion was put into the ITF. And if we also look at the interests, yes, this fund has been used for 15 years. I think injecting $5 billion may not be generous enough. Do you want it to last for 15 years again? That may be a bit too long. And for the cash rebate scheme, CRS, it will be subsumed under the ITF. So what's the exact amount? Would the ITF be diluted? It is still okay if it serves its purpose. However, the $5 billion might be spent within a very short period of time. And of course, after that, we would have to look at the efficacy. But does it mean that the fund will be diluted and you will be coming back for more funding very soon? As for 15 years, well, at that time, we started with $5 billion and $8.8 billion have been granted because the exchange fund has been investing for us and the return rate was very good. So in the coming few years, will it be better or worse? Well, we will have to look at the performance of Mr. Bernard Chen. Well, I don't know what the stock market will be like. Of course, I hope that the return is good, but that's not under my control. However, when we compare the present situation with 15 years ago, I'm sure this time the money will go away faster, because in the beginning we didn't have any R&D centers, well, other than the estuary. However, later on R&D centers were set up, and this is a very effective means for carrying out high quality R&D, and they are indeed spending a lot of money. Later on, Mr. Zhang can supplement. So for the CRS, we applied for $200 million for it, and after a few years, now the undertaking is about $170 million. Or our commitment is $170 million. So for the $5 billion, and each year the ITF is giving out about $750 million. That's every year? Yes, every year. When you compare this figure with the old figure 15 years ago, this is a much bigger figure. And if you also look at the cash flow, I think this time around we will last 5 or 6 years. If the ESS is very effective, then the money will be drained even faster. Mr. Frank Zhang, Assistant Commissioner. Maybe I can supplement. Actually, the Commissioner has made a lot of points. The major difference is that when the IFT was set up in 1999, the provision was, or the grant was about 200 or 300 million a year, and lately it's about 750 million a year.
And when we set up the cash rebate scheme in 2010, in the first few years, it was about just $6 to $10 million. But in 2013-14, we are giving out $30 million, and we expect the figure to remain mostly the same for the coming few years. So, because it accounts for just a smaller proportion, it will not take up a large share of ITF, and we also anticipate a new a stable growth of about 10%. That depends on whether we have new measures, and also whether we have a positive response from the sector on the ESS, and we will closely monitor the situation and report back to members. I think members don't really mind whether the ITF will be utilized or used up quickly or not. The most important thing is that it should be used efficiently or effectively and reasonably. Dr. Low Kwok, about injecting $5 billion into the ITF, I don't think our panel will oppose it. Promoting innovation and technology is our common goal. In fact, there are a lot of R&D companies relying on this fund for the past decade or so. If there is no injection into the fund, these companies or organizations will close down. And I think a lot of members from the IT sector will be besieging electrical, asking for injection into the fund. But my concern is that the panel is not tasked to approve the funding application. The FC is. Under the non-cooperative campaign, we have no idea when this item will be approved eventually. Now, according to para 7 of the paper, it is said that as at end of November 2014, the uncommitted balance of the ITF was $0.2 billion and the cash balance was about $1.3 billion. I'd like to know the link between the two. Why is it that you have an uncommitted balance of 200 million and a cash balance of about $1.3 billion? And then it is said that in the middle of 2015, the uncommitted balance would be fully committed, and then you are going to use up the fund. So does it mean really that in several months' time, the whole fund will be exhausted? If so, I find it quite strange why you submit this proposal this late, instead of coming to LegCo last year for approval. Commissioner. Dr. Low. Now for the $0.2 billion, the smaller amount, that's the uncommitted balance, that we still have balance in the bank for a project. The standard term is 1 of 2 years. That means we still have balance, only that we have committed some of our funds to certain projects, because because they come for funds by phases. If they submit reports, if they have completed all their work, then I have to honor the contract as well. As for why we hadn't come earlier for funding approval, we have all along had this in mind. But overall speaking, the government has fiscal discipline to exercise. The government does not want to premature the utilization of any funds. So according to our cash flow forecast, we could come for funding application only this year. Maybe I'll defer to Mr. Wong for more details. Now, as Commissioner said just now, for the committed sum, because we have exercised fiscal prudence, there are projects approved with funds that have not been used. Nevertheless, we have reserved the funds. And now, according to the wording here, it's uncommitted balance. For the committed balance is $1.3 billion. For uncommitted balance, it means the funds available for projects, new projects. As to why we hadn't come earlier, as members understand, we have an internal resource allocation exercise every year. We follow an annual cycle. So we just follow strictly our cycle as prepared by the FSTB colleagues in preparing our work. With members' support today, we hope to submit the proposal to FC as soon as possible, and we also hope that FC can support and pass or approve our funding application as soon as possible. Well, Chairman, I need to make this clear because it's important. Well, that means you have $1.3 billion of cash. Only that $1.1 billion has been committed, which means that you have a $0.2 billion uncommitted balance for new projects. Am I correct? Well, thank you, Dr. Low, for a question. For the $1.3 billion deposit, it's in the bank for committed balance. Say, for example, I have approved 50 projects. Altogether, these 50 projects require a maximum of $1.3 billion. So, Dr. Low, your understanding is correct. So, the committed balance is $1.1 billion. Now, for the sum payable, it still depends on whether the project proponent is eligible. But you have already reserved the fund. It's important because it hinges upon the pays for R&D center staff. It means they are not depending on the $0.2 billion for their pays. They may feel worried. Well, and then they're reassured then. Next, Mr. Charles Mott. Chairman, this paper hasn't mentioned this part. Now, for the last agenda item, I tried to avoid the ITF as we have this item here. Now we have a new funding program called University Industry Collaboration Program, UICP. And up to $24 million subsidy can be provided to the 6 universities. Is this under ITF? No, it's under Education Bureau. Yes, we have a separate one. Yes, Mr. Mock, please continue. That's in the previous paper, also under ITF. So $4 million for each university. About 2 years ago, at least, the policy address also contained an initiative for several $1 million for the transfer office of universities. Is this program a similar one? Is this just the same program with a better name, the University Industry Collaboration Program? Is there any difference? Sometimes universities may say that several $1 million may not be sufficient. They may take the subsidy, but they may find it's insufficient. Now, these are two different things. The first one is for the Transfer Office of Universities. We call it TTO, and there is a TTO for each university. Perhaps because the sum is the same. For the first program, for example, a TTO may engage an IP lawyer, and they may negotiate with a pharmaceutical company with a team of legal professionals, and the sum is for the TTO Office of Universities. Later on, we found that more funding is necessary for universities to carry out R&D work. Therefore, we give $4 million to each university for projects of their choice. And these universities have flexibility. Now, you mentioned the word using the $4 million on projects. Does it mean that you invest in projects and that the university would be one of the shareholders, or would it be some sort of micro fund, cyberport, only capital investment is involved and the university holds no shares? For the new program, the ITC discussed with all the local universities, and we agreed that the universities themselves should be responsible for vetting projects. This is to encourage teachers, students, and graduates to use the university's intellectual property. And the university would make individual arrangements with them, the users, in terms of the fees involved. As for the funds invested, it has nothing to do with holding shares. So you won't allow university to be a shareholder. It's not a form of loan. It's not financing. It's investment. It's just for supporting startups. So when we first briefed the panel on this proposal, we said that every university will be given $4 million. And each project can take up to $1.3 million for a period of 2 years at most. And on universities' recommendations, some projects may receive subsidy for up to 3 years. And as mentioned by Commissioner just now, Some universities may prefer projects of a smaller scale, and they may wish to give support to many projects for less than $1.3 million. For some larger projects, some university may wish to give more funds up to 1.3 million. That's the maximum. So that means you can have 3 large projects for $4 million. One follow-up question. So, Deputy Commissioner, according to you, the decision-making process doesn't really lie with universities. They need to consult you as well. No, we trust the universities because this is public money. They have audited accounts, and they will report back to us. But basically, we trust the universities. They have a high-level committee that vets the best projects. Alright, so just one comment. I think the amount, since it's for 3 years only, if it's proved to be effective, I think you should increase the amount. Because $1 million is not a large sum. Let's put this on record because it's not under this item.
Next, Mr. Anchang. Thank you, Chairman. I support this. In the past few years, I think the government has done a lot for innovation and technology, and also it supports the development of R&D. I have visited the science park. I have seen many enterprises there, and they are inventing new things. However, it seems to me that they also face a lot of problems. They cannot have a market. You mean they have invented products, but those products have no market, right? Yes, it seems that they have a lot of difficulties. So I wonder if they are too idealistic. They just come up with products that are not that popular in the market, or there are already such products in the market. So I hope the Commissioner can really look into this. When we grant more funds to them in the future, we should know better about the market. And I understand that some universities are also doing R&D. When they eventually commercialize their R&D outcome, they do it overseas. For example, T21 was a project like that. So I also want to know that why they have some very good R&D outcomes, but such outcomes are not commercialized in Hong Kong, and how Hong Kong can help them so that these R&D can make contributions to the GDP. I also have a third question. Some people told me that they do R&D and they are already cooperating with a factory. It's very smooth. However, they've done the first part and then they continue with the second part. However, the IFT does not give them support anymore. So originally they had a good opportunity, but now they had to find new funding for their project. Maybe the Commissioner can also answer this question. So I hope this can be of your concern. Well, about 4 years ago, we changed our point system. Previously, we just looked at the elements of technology, and starting from 4 years ago, we also looked at the market. That is, the products can really be commercialized or marketable. Our professional vetting committee will look at this. Of course, we understand that a lot of the R&D didn't turn out to be real products. So we want to do this step by step so that R&D outcomes can be commercialized eventually. About 3 years ago, we had a public sector trial scheme. That is, if a public body wants to use it, for example, the Customs and Excise Department or the Tonghua groups of hospital, if they would like to use the products, then we will fund the project so that the public bodies can try out the new products. If not, the result would not be as good as that of today. We have 70 projects like this, and the new ESS is also very good, because in the future they can also make use of the ESS to bring their products to the markets. Ms. Chiang asked that how come after a certain period of time the ITF does not support the projects anymore. Well, administratively we have to be disciplined, so our funding would last for 2 years, but I understand, of course, some project may last for 6 years, so they have to apply every 2 years. So into the 18th month, if they think it's pretty successful, then, and if they want to go on, then they can make an early application. So for Ms. Chiang's question, so maybe they have completed the first 2 years, they have to make another application, and they don't know whether they will have that application granted. Well, I suggest that Ms. Chiang refer the case to you, so that you can look at the case in details. And it seems that Ms. Chiang doesn't really know too well about the case. Well, can you ask the applicants to talk to the commission? Well, I have told them to give me details, and then I will write a letter to the commissioner. Don't write a letter, take the person to see the commissioner. Yes, contact the commissioner directly. Then the commissioner can know more details. Mr. Chung Guopen. Thank you, Chairman. Last time, it was also 5 million, and it started in 1999. It's been spent over a period of 5 years. And now you want another 5 years. So I don't want it to last for another 15 years. Otherwise, the development of technology will be very slow. Commissioner, would you make some changes internally? For example, vetting the application. Well, 15 years you approved $5 billion. So do you mean that the new injection of $5 billion will be spent by 2030? Well, if we look at the world, tens of billions of dollars will be spent on R&D. In the initial stage, they didn't have the R&D centers. When I first became a LegCo member, there were no such R&D centers. So that's why you approved the funding with a slower pace. Now for this $5 billion, I think they would be spent in 5 or 6 years' time. Well, for the last injection of $5 billion in the initial stage, there were no R&D centers. Only universities could make the application, or the Productivity Council, as well as the ASTRIC. In 2006, we opened some R&D center, and the money was spent much faster. In recent years, there have been a number of new policies. For example, national key laboratories, etc. Now the response is very good. We have received 28 applications. If these applications are successful, each year they would get $5 million. So I'm sure this time around the money will go faster. My colleague has just shown me this chart. You can see the initial years. Do we have this chart? No, this is supplementary data. Can you give us that piece of information? Definitely. Now, if you look at line, it's going up all the time. And with new schemes like ESS, we hope that the money can be spent faster. I think in the initial stage, only a limited number of institutions were allowed to apply. Now the scope is much broader. I am not saying that you are spending money too fast, but you should be careful when you spend money. We are not requiring you to spend the amount of money within a certain period of time. You have to be reasonable. Chairman, if the Commissioner has so many new plans and so many new constitutions trying to apply for funds, then why don't we inject $10 billion into the ITF? Of course, I want to do it, but a lot of departments and bureaus are fighting for funding in the government. I'm already very happy with this amount. Mr. Chung, I don't think anyone of us here would object to this, but when it goes to FC, that's another question. Chairman, we do not know what the future political ecology will be. Well, if that is the case, then why don't we inject $10 billion into it? I think they have to be prudent when it comes to spending public money. It's not that when you want 10 billion or 20 billion, you will get it right away. You have to talk to Professor Chen Ka-keung and Mr. John Zhang. Mr. Lo Wai Kwok. Well, I am a board member of the Nano and Advanced Materials Institute. Have you applied for any funding? No, there's no pecuniary interest involved. Of course, I want to know whether the employees are paid or not. Chairman, in Hong Kong, we always urge the governments to make more efforts in encouraging R&D. However, R&D still accounts for a very small part of our GDP. Well, we can see some achievements now, and I think we should publicize it. Some of our laboratories are of a state level. I think many of our people do not know about this. A very good example is that the Environment Bureau places API on TV. I think that's quite useful because people know more about advanced incineration technology and how waste can be turned into energy. So this kind of message dissemination is effective. Our R&D can make a lot of contribution to our economy. We can see very good examples everywhere. However, publicity in this area is not enough. And as a result, even though some students are very talented in these areas, some of them knows how to create apps or websites. However, they do not know that this can be a great career. I think there should be more publicity, and the good laboratories should be publicized so that Hong Kong people would attach more importance to technology instead of just chasing after money. Can the fund be used for publicity? No, not from the fund, but my department can do that. I have a departmental envelope. I can do that. I will look into this. I think Mr. Lo's view is really very good. Okay, Mr. Sin Chung Kai, you just entered first round. Chairman, I know the government will be applying for $5 million for injection into the ITF. And innovation and technology is something for the long run. You cannot have any achievement within 2 to 3 years. In some countries, they have the ups and downs, and Finland was very good once, but in the past few years, it seems that it's not doing such a good job. So I think we have to do this constantly. I'm not worried about your commission. I'm worried that not many graduate students or local graduate students are interested in innovation and technology. Most of the graduate students, 70 or 80% of them, come from other places, not only the mainland. So I think what we have to change is not just enhancing publicity. We should also encourage local students to be more interested in science and technology. And this is not only the job of your commission. Other bureaus should also cooperate. For example, the Education Bureau and UGC, universities in Hong Kong, etc., they should adopt measures to encourage local students to further their studies in science and technology. Next, Ms. Antia. Thank you, Chairman. I want to look at the ITF. It mainly supports projects in three areas, A, B, C. So is there a ratio among these projects? Yes, thank you. We have science and research. For example, we would fund an IP application, and for each ITF projects, they can recruit graduates from local universities as interns, and they can stage exhibitions, surveys, etc. And also there are scholarships. Now for the Innovation and Technology Support Scheme, so or support program, if you are going to earmark 5 billion, well, how are you going to distribute the $5 billion among ITSP, UICP, etc.? No, we do not have such an established distribution. There is no fixed ratio among the different programs. So as long as they get more than 50 points, we will approve the funding. So when we look at the figures, over 80% of them are under innovation and technology support programs because we have R&D centers.
Chairman, I'd like to tell Commissioner to try this. Now, about the IT support program, ITSP, well, in the past, we allocated much funds to local universities, but the R&D results were not commercialized, and the result is not good. So my recommendation is not to spend all of the $5 billion on A, ITSP, but rather on C, SERAP, Small Entrepreneur Research Assistance Program, because it's very effective. In Taiwan, the industries, such as the electronics industry, has developed quite well, and I understand that in order to encourage R&D development, the officials visited factories. Although these factories may be small in scale, they might only get a profit of $1 million a year, and it's really difficult to ask them to invest more in machinery, in R&D, and they need the government's encouragement. That means, for example, the government gives them several $1 million to invest into these areas, and when they succeed, they will return the money. If they only succeed to a certain extent, they just return half of the money, or just none at all if they fail. So that's how small enterprises develop in Taiwan. Now let's say if the commissioner is willing to visit small enterprises, I think it will be a great encouragement for them, because they have they started up their business, they already have a market. Well, Dr. An Chang, your time is up. I think Commissioner understands your point very well. That is, you should place more emphasis on Program C, SERAP, out of ABC. Now, I understand your point, but we have to bear in mind that this is the Innovation and Technology Fund, ITF. It is not the same as a fund for small enterprises to tap markets. Anyway, please bring back Dr. N. Chang's suggestion and discuss with the Bureau. And Dr. N. Chang just now made some comments. R&D is about research and development, not developing manufacturing industries, not about opening up another production line, the procurement of more equipment and machinery. We're talking about more R&D projects. High tech may result in a total failure. That's why we want to help them. We give them courage and give them funding support, give them subsidy to research and develop high-tech products. It's not the same as expanding manufacturing to procure more equipment and machinery to tap markets. I think there are other initiatives from the administration for that. Well, I haven't heard any opposing views just now, and now we only have Dr. Lloyd Kwok and myself here on this paper. I think we agree to give in principle support to the administration to inject $5 billion into the ITF and to subsume the R&D cash rebate scheme under the ITF. And we endorse the administration's proposal, which will be submitted to the FC. Item 6 AOB. If there's nothing under AOB, then meeting's adjourned.